Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. This story isn't fiction. It's pulled straight from federal courtroom testimony with voices that were never meant to be heard again until now. The voice of Tupac Shakur, raw, emotional, unfiltered, echoed through a packed courtroom like a ghost returned to deliver unfinished business. It was from a lost interview, hidden for decades, not by accident, not by oversight, but allegedly buried by the man now on trial, Sean Diddy Combs. What you're about to hear could unravel an empire. Why was Tupac silenced? Why did a 2-hour interview mysteriously vanish from the airwaves? And how did it suddenly resurface at the center of the most explosive trial hip-hop has ever witnessed? This isn't just about East versus West. This is about a system that protects power and punishes truth. A system Tupac tried to expose before it swallowed him whole. We're not just talking about old beefs or music rivalries. This is about a man who saw the chessboard clearly and tried to warn us before the first piece fell. Tupac wasn't being paranoid. He was prophesying. Now, with the courtroom finally cracking open secrets long kept in the dark, his voice has returned. And it might be the final nail in the coffin for a media mogul once thought untouchable. The truth was always there, buried, suppressed, waiting. So what exactly did Tupac say that scared the industry into silence? Stay with us, because what unfolds next could change everything you thought you knew about the music world. In 1996, just months before Tupac's death, legendary radio host Angie Martinez sat down with him for what was supposed to be a groundbreaking interview. 2 hours long, raw, candid, and intense. But the world only got to hear 10 minutes. For decades, the official story was simple. Airing the full interview could ignite the East Coast-West Coast feud even further. Angie said it was about keeping the peace, that releasing it could have caused real violence. But the truth, as we're now learning in court, is far more sinister. Because it wasn't Angie who made the call. According to Gene Deal, Diddy's former personal bodyguard, that decision came from the top. Diddy himself allegedly heard the tape and demanded it be buried, not because it was inflammatory, but because it was dangerous. To him, Tupac wasn't just speaking his mind. He was naming names, exposing systems. He said things that, if aired back then, could have set fire to the foundation of the industry. And Deal testified that Diddy knew it. He knew exactly how much damage Tupac's words could cause. So he made one phone call and the tape vanished. And it wasn't just this tape. Court documents now reveal a pattern. Diddy allegedly had influence over major media outlets, particularly Hot 97. He could suppress stories, silence interviews, make narratives disappear before they even saw daylight. He didn't own the stations, but he owned the fear. Insiders say that full interview is a blueprint, a map that connects power, manipulation, and silence in ways no one wanted the public to understand. It wasn't a feud. It was a warning. Tupac laid it all out, calmly, methodically. "I'm like a lightning rod," he said. "I attract truth and threats." And now, nearly 3 decades later, that lightning has struck again. The courtroom was tense. What began as a case about personal abuse quickly transformed into something far more systemic. At the heart of this shift was Cassie Ventura, a singer once seen only as Diddy's protege and partner. But in her testimony, she became something else, entirely. The whistleblower who cracked the surface of an empire built on silence. Her voice trembled, but her words were unwavering. Cassie spoke about nights that blurred into nightmares, velvet-curtained hotel rooms, cameras where there shouldn't be cameras, networking events that felt more like rituals. She told the jury her phone was taken, her choices erased. She wasn't invited into Diddy's world. She was absorbed into it. And this wasn't just one woman's trauma. It was infrastructure. A system designed to control people, to isolate them, to keep them obedient. Non-disclosure agreements, threats disguised as favors, careers built and destroyed overnight based on loyalty or defiance. Cassie said plainly, "This wasn't about love, this was about control." Then came the shocker. Monique. She wasn't on the witness list. She wasn't expected, but when she took the stand, everything changed. Monique didn't bring tears, she brought documentation, receipts, audio clips, dates, and names. She said the silence around Diddy wasn't accidental, it was bought. Paid for by access, by privilege, by people who wanted their seats at the table untouched. And the names she pointed to weren't underground players. They were giants, media moguls, film producers, talk show royalty. She didn't just accuse them of staying quiet. She said they were complicit, that when Diddy rose, they helped. When he controlled, they applauded. When women cried out, they turned away. This trial started with Cassie, Monique said, but it's about all of us now. She wasn't just exposing a man, she was exposing a system. Gene Deal wasn't just a witness, he was a vault. Diddy's former personal bodyguard, the man who stood behind him during the golden era of Bad Boy Records, had seen everything. The parties, the guests, the power games. But what he shared in court wasn't just memory. It was a confession of what he'd carried in silence for years. Gene looked Diddy in the eye and said, "You weren't protecting anything. You were hiding everything." The gallery froze. According to Gene, Diddy's obsession with Tupac ran deeper than rivalry. It started with admiration, Tupac's charisma, his power, his following. But it twisted. It turned into jealousy, envy, imitation. Gene said Diddy didn't just want to beat Pac. He wanted to become him. He testified that Diddy studied Tupac like a blueprint. He wore the same Versace fits, copied the way he walked, the cadence of his voice, even the messages in his speeches. Once, Gene claimed, Diddy accepted a Grammy and repeated Pac's words nearly verbatim. This wasn't homage, it was identity theft. But the most chilling part wasn't the fashion, it was the fear. Gene testified that Diddy once told him, "Tupac talks too much. One day someone's gonna shut him up." That statement hung heavy in the courtroom. He wasn't theatrical. He wasn't emotional. He was done pretending. Gene spoke of surveillance. Diddy allegedly kept tabs on rivals, on employees, on women in his orbit. Nothing happened without his knowledge. And when that Angie Martinez tape crossed his desk, Gene said he didn't hesitate. He buried it. Because on it, Tupac was drawing a map. Not to music beefs, but to something darker. Diddy wasn't just building an empire, John said. He was building control. And Pac? He saw it coming. November 30th, 1994. Tupac walks into Quad Recording Studios in Manhattan for what should have been a regular late-night session. But within minutes, chaos erupts. He's ambushed, robbed, shot 5 times, left for dead in a dimly lit lobby. He survives, but he's never the same again. From his hospital bed, Tupac starts putting the pieces together. This wasn't a random mugging. The timing, the silence, the missing surveillance footage. It all screamed setup. Someone knew he'd be there. Someone wanted him silenced. And in Tupac's eyes, all roads pointed in one direction, Bad Boy Records. He called it early, said the look in people's eyes afterward told him everything. Diddy and Biggie were in the same building that night, just a few floors up, but they never came down. Never checked in, never called. They just kept moving. Then, as if on cue, Diddy released "Who Shot Ya?", a song he and Biggie claimed had been recorded months earlier. But the timing was suspicious. The lyrics were cold. And Tupac heard something. In it no one else did. A message. Stay quiet. Or next time you don't get up. The industry labeled Tupac paranoid. Said he was emotional, dramatic. But now, inside this courtroom, His instincts are being vindicated. Jean Deal confirmed there were whispers in Bad Boy almost immediately after the shooting. Some people laughed, others looked spooked, but no one acted surprised. And that said everything. Tupac later said that night changed everything for him. That was the moment he saw the rules of the game, where power lives, where silence hides. From that day forward, he never walked into a room without watching the exits. Because the real danger? It didn't come from enemies. It came from the people you once called family. Tupac wasn't just a rapper. He was a thinker, a watcher, a man who saw patterns in chaos and tried to make sense of the unseen machinery moving behind the scenes. And one of the first things he started to notice was that the industry wasn't just unfair, it was rigged. He talked about how the same corporations that owned record labels also had stakes in private prisons. He believed the push for violent, destructive lyrics wasn't random, it was policy, a pipeline. Follow this life, he said, and you follow it straight into a cage. He warned that young black artists were being used as bait, that messages of empowerment got shelved, while songs glorifying violence and self-destruction got pushed with million-dollar budgets. Tupac saw it not as culture, but as programming. And at the center of that machine, gatekeepers, people like Diddy. According to Gene Deal's testimony, Diddy wasn't just playing the game, he was enforcing the rules, controlling what stories got told, who got elevated, who got silenced. Monique backed this up in court, pointing to executives and moguls who enabled it. Not because they were powerless, because they benefited. Tupac once said, "They don't just want to profit off us, they want to program us." He spoke of shadow deals, secret meetings, contracts designed to bind and muzzle, of how real truth-tellers were blacklisted while puppet voices were given the stage. What scared him most wasn't Diddy's fame, it was his access, his connections to figures way beyond the music world. He believed Diddy wasn't the architect. He was the doorman, the enforcer. And that scared him more than any lyric or bullet. Tupac was trying to tell us. He just didn't live long enough to finish the sentence. Tupac wasn't just a rapper. He was a thinker, a watcher, a man who saw patterns in chaos and tried to make sense of the unseen machinery moving behind the scenes. And one of the first things he started to notice was that the industry wasn't just unfair, it was rigged. He talked about how the same corporations that owned record labels also had stakes in private prisons. He believed the push for violent, destructive lyrics wasn't random. It was policy, a pipeline. Follow this life, he said, and you follow it straight into a cage. He warned that young black artists were being used as bait, that messages of empowerment got shelved, while songs glorifying violence and self-destruction got pushed with million-dollar budgets. Tupac saw it not as culture, but as programming, and at the center of that machine, gatekeepers, people like Diddy. According to Gene Deal's testimony, Diddy wasn't just playing the game, he was enforcing the rules, controlling what stories got told, who got elevated, who got silenced. Monique backed this up in court, pointing to executives and moguls who enabled it. Not because they were powerless, because they benefited. Tupac once said, "They don't just want to profit off us, they want to program us." He spoke of shadow deals, secret meetings, contracts designed to bind and muzzle, of how real truth-tellers were blacklisted while puppet voices were given the stage. What scared him most wasn't Diddy's fame. It was his access, his connections to figures way beyond the music world. He believed Diddy wasn't the architect. He was the doorman, the enforcer, and that scared him more than any lyric or bullet. Tupac